Let's talk a moment about sales compensation, especially with the difficult market and economic conditions we are all facing. It's critical to focus on strategies that will both increase revenue and reduce costs, and at the same time have a process in place that will stimulate your salespeople to be motivated to improve their sales skills and to produce more sales revenue for you and your company. Of course, having the right people in place that are also well-trained and can demonstrate exceptional sales skills is critical. But in addition to that, another major component as part of a congruent sales management strategy is the use of a profit-focused sales compensation program. We call it targeted compensation. Let me give you a little background and how we came to this concept. It's based upon several observations. The first of which is this: paying people more money in and of itself does not necessarily make them any smarter, work harder, or be more efficient or productive. On the contrary, it oftentimes has a counterproductive effect. In times of extremely good housing markets, and if compensated in the traditional manner, it's possible for a salesperson to just show up, and if they don't screw up or make a lot of mistakes, they can probably do okay for themselves financially. Consequently, far too many new home salespeople were confusing the size of their paychecks with their skill level. But I contend that's not their fault, and targeted compensation can help you change it. I consider the challenges that owners of professional sports organizations confront to be very similar to what new home builders face when related to appropriate compensation. More money paid doesn't always assure a World Series, Super Bowl, or NBA championship, and it does not assure a highly productive world-class new home sales organization either. Another idea to consider is that to be extremely effective, a new home salesperson should possess a PhD and not live in a financial comfort zone, meaning making more money than they should for too few sales. It's amazing how difficult it is for a person to understand something or to expect them to attain the highest level of skill development if they are paid a small fortune not to. If a salesperson in the past did not have to have proven sales skills to make a lot of money, why would they? So how do we get started? Well, through a remote consulting arrangement and using a series of Excel spreadsheets that are designed to analyze the information, we can take you step by step through the processes and the action needed to create a targeted compensation model that is right for your company and its objectives. We begin by assessing the following. First, your Realtor Co-op program, if applicable. Then we look at your current sales compensation program and your current sales staffing requirements. The next step is to determine your various profit level goals. Theoretically, and for purposes of this exercise, let's presume that up until your break-even point is reached in a given year, that no profit is made. And that's no fun for you, your investors, and shareholders, or for your lending institutions. The true objective is to reach your break-even point as early in the year as possible so that more sales made after that point will produce increased incremental revenue that goes directly toward your bottom line. For example, if you were able to cover your operational expenses with the first 30 sales within a community, anything above and beyond that will yield a larger profit margin. Next, we adjust sales goals to be congruent with the increased profit levels. This is accomplished after you have established the break-even point in units or sales volume by individual community or selling situations, and you calculate the percentage of sales revenue increases needed to produce profit levels 1 through 4. Next, we adjust the sales goals to be congruent with those increased profit levels. In essence, those 4 profit levels are determined, and then the sales compensation to an individual salesperson achieving those various levels is crossed at a place that makes sense based upon your marketplace. Now let's assume that the break-even point for a builder in terms of their closed sales annually is 48. We use 48 simply for illustrative purposes and because it's easily divisible by 12. Your number could be 48, 480, or 4,800, or any other number that allows you to reach your break-even point. Now assume that the average sales price for this example is $200,000. And now let's assume that the compensation is calculated at 1.5% of the sales price. And there is one salesperson. Using these illustrative numbers, the average compensation per transaction is $3,000. Consequently, if that salesperson sells just 2 homes a month, you would pay them approximately $6,000 per month or $72,000 annually. If that salesperson sells 3 homes a month, you pay them $9,000 for that month, and if they maintained that pace, that would equal $108,000 annually. Either one of these examples could create a financial comfort zone for the salesperson. However, in this example, the builder needs a minimum of 4 sales a month just to break even. So due to these incongruent goals, that would not be a comfort zone for the builder. I know of no builder that's happy when they don't even break even. We firmly believe that in order to simultaneously increase revenue and reduce costs, sales compensation should be structured so that it forms the foundation that will motivate salespeople to enthusiastically embrace and implement a proven sales process, and to engage in proactive activities necessary to produce predetermined, congruent sales goals that are targeted to your levels of profitability. In effect, we want to pay them more money for the last few sales in a given period of time, for example, in a quarter, so that will cause them to produce those incremental sales that add to your profitability. Then we can surround that model with additional financial and non-financial incentives based upon predetermined activities and objectives that make sense. We know that a sale is the end result of a series of well-executed concepts, strategies, and tactics implemented consistently over time, and those need to be rewarded. If we reward the process consistently implemented, that process will produce incremental sales revenue. Here are some examples of the additional incentive opportunities that we have in mind. We create additional incentives that will motivate salespeople and sales managers to enthusiastically embrace a proven sales process and engage in activities focused to achieve required sales results and levels of profitability that will reach and exceed targeted profit levels. For instance, we have a total team cooperation incentive. And this incentive works well for builders that have multiple salespeople within one community and would like to foster more of a team approach to reaching those sales goals. Next, we can help you create what we call an acceptable targeted co-op rate for realtor sales, or outside co-broke sales. This incentive is designed to motivate your on-site salespeople to become the first line of defense against backdoor or parachute sales. Those are the sales that the realtor claims to have been responsible for, but perhaps might not have really been the procuring cause. This provides for financial incentive for the on-site salesperson to reach the sales that will equal predetermined profit level goals, with more of those sales being direct sales, with the expense of co-op sales being a smaller percentage of the total. And then, of course, in today's market, where we have every buyer making offers, we create an incentive so that the salespeople do not give away the farm. This incentive motivates the salespeople to sell your homes at or closer to the published price as possible and prevents them from giving away the farm. Now, I jokingly say that a builder or a sales manager knows they're in trouble when a salesperson comes to them and they have a file folder under their arm, and in that file folder there's an offer. And the last thing they say, with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm, the last thing they say before they present you with the offer as they pat the folder with their free hand is, "These are lovely people. We have to help them out. They can't go over 220 and they won't counter." I know many of you have heard that before. Well, without the proper incentives in place, the salesperson's goal is to make the sale at any and all costs, and we need to stop that. Another one of the many additional incentive possibilities we can help you create is one that will provide a financial incentive for the on-site salesperson. For example, if you have a relationship with a designated or a preferred mortgage company, to capture more mortgages with the sales we make, or if your salesperson is responsible for selling options and upgrades, to motivate them to get better at doing that and sell more options and upgrades. You know, it's very easy and simple to create a compensation program that is a percentage, whether it's 1 or 1.5 or 2 of the sales price. Easy math, easy to account for, but not very profitable. Think about this real-world example for a moment. The generally accepted concept of the calculation for tipping in restaurants, the basis being a percentage of the total check, just because that's the way it is or that's the custom, does not make it logical, correct, nor is it an accurate gauge of the reward for the actual work or service performed. And here's where I come to that conclusion. And again, for illustrative purposes, let's assume hypothetically that in a restaurant there are two parties of 4 people. Each group sitting at tables next to each other, the same wait person serves both parties, and the distance from the kitchen to the table is exactly the same. Each person in one party orders a low-price meal, let's say $20 each, and an inexpensive bottle of wine at $20. Therefore, their check will be approximately $100. The other party, however, of 4, each order meals that are $35 and a bottle of wine that costs about $60. Their total check will be about $200. Now let's assume each party follows the customary tipping protocol of 20%. The wait person will be rewarded with a tip, or as it could be considered in this context, a commission of $20 for their work with the first party of 4, and twice that amount for the second party of 4. Why? It's not logical, but it's the custom. We can take you step by step through the processes and the action needed to create a targeted compensation model that is right for your company and its objectives. Remember I said before that oftentimes chief financial officers in companies are the biggest raving fan of this targeted compensation model, and I think from this brief introduction you can see why. So we look forward to working with you to help you and your company get through these difficult market and economic times so that when the market does stabilize, you'll be at the top.